Do we need safe spaces? Welcome to Philosopher's Corner. I'm John. Do we need safe spaces? So, safe spaces are a recent development, and essentially they are what they sound like. They're a space that is preserved, and they can be anywhere, which are intended to be free of judgment, bias, any sort of contentious vibe, or really any sort of judgment. You could easily call it a Zen space, but it's really intended for therapeutic purposes so that people can get a break in life. And it's famously come to the front of the consciousness recently because of millennials and Gen Zs requiring them in certain public institutions. And they were raised with them. They were raised with safe spaces and timeouts. And so it evolved with the culture, with them, with the way they were raised. So the question is, do we need safe spaces? Like, philosophically, do we need safe spaces? And I think it's an interesting topic because I believe that safe spaces have always existed. And I think they've just existed in different forms and to different degrees and to different levels of awareness, and they've been called different things. So I do think that they're a naturally occurring space in reality, or a naturally occurring phenomenon in reality. Because when we look at it, when we look through human history, we see that one of the most therapeutic things that people can do is to knowingly go into an area where they know stimulation will cease, and especially that what they consider to be a hostile vibration ceases, and in general terms, any sort of level of stimulation that they are not prepared to handle or interpret ceases. In fact, safe spaces could really be said to be the real reason that ascetic philosophers became ascetics, where they withdrew from society, because to them society had become just completely toxic and chaotic and just bad vibes. Couldn't interpret the vibes, couldn't get good thoughts, and that was on top of them not wanting to play the games of men at the time, which the games of men reportedly throughout history have been rather intolerable throughout human history. And so the ascetics basically said, oh, you know what? Pretty much everything outside of the walls of men is a safe space. And so they would just leave and go. And that's the same story for people who go into hermitages, and essentially every monastery is essentially a safe space. Now theirs is a sanctified safe space, and they have different goals and focuses in it, but essentially same thing. It's just a safe space. Colleges, for the most part, they're really just giant safe spaces, really, which is funny that the modern safe spaces sort of found a niche in there. And I think as we look around, I mean, even like on a really crude level, a lot of people in modern day, the reason they like using the bathroom is because the bathroom is sort of a default safe space, right? You get to go in there, just be by yourself with your own thoughts, as long as you don't look at your phone too much, you don't have anybody attacking you. So I think in terms of the utility of a safe space, I think it's safe to say that it has an actual utility, and it's demonstrated by the fact that it's been with us basically throughout time. Everybody has used safe spaces. Everybody kind of needs them. I mean, even your bedroom at night, even going to sleep, is kind of a safe space. That's why even if you find out that people don't have a good place to sleep, that's one of the most disturbing things to find out about other people, assuming you have even a drop of compassion or like an ounce of empathy, is that your sleeping area is supposed to be ostensibly a safe space. And so we have actually a multitude of safe spaces built into our daily rhythms if we really sit down and think about it, which is one of the points of philosophy. So, do we need them? Now, in the sociological sense, I think yes. Now, the question is where. So, now that we've identified that safe spaces are a great place to withdraw, collect yourself, meditate, zen out, get your vibe together, compose yourself, all these different things, and that human history has a long catalog of those places that are sort of built in, if not directly conscious of it, they're at least there and we're using them. I think for sure in modern society, and it doesn't matter where you're at in modern society, any place that has buildings and cars and commerce, there's craziness, there's chaos. And especially the more densely populated the area and the more urban the area, the more chaotic and the more overwhelming the stimulation can be. You can walk down a city street and in the span of like 30 minutes, you can, witness 3 or 4 different really impactful events as you turn a corner here and a corner there, and you hear a conversation and you see something occur, and you really just need a break. So I think in terms of cities and populated areas and the raw reality, I do think we do need safe spaces in those areas. I think we for sure need a safe space in cities where if there was just like a Zen booth you could go sit in and get a break from everything. I mean, on cue, right? In the city, you almost never get a break. And I think that coffee houses serve a lot of that purpose, and lounges serve a bit of that purpose, but they're still sort of focus oriented. And honestly, coffee shops have turned into mobile offices really today. Just people who can't afford an office go to a coffee shop with their laptop, but they do serve as a bit of a safe space. However, I do think like an actual safe space in cities would be great. I think whether it was a place you could pay to be in, or a place that just was provided by the municipality, where you could go in and you just go hang out in a room, and the room is just acoustic paneling and blank and chill and cushion. And I know it sounds a lot like the inside of a clinical observation ward of a psychiatric facility, but those are effective, and we kind of all need one from time to time. And I think that if we had those spots in the city where people know they could duck out of the city and just go into a safe spot and rejuvenate and be free of the chaos, I think it'd be very helpful. I think that would definitely help the mental health metrics of any densely populated area. Now, in terms of, it's in popular political culture, or it's in the popular culture the last 20, 30 years, where the advent of safe spaces in college has popped up. Now, that I do disagree with that. I philosophically, I think colleges, the parents disagree. Philosophically, colleges are supposed to be not safe spaces. That's actually why they're there. Because colleges are a subset of society, right? And colleges are supposed to be where the most developed humans in your society at an early age are going to. These are supposed to be, the students who go to college are supposed to be free of mental defect. They're supposed to be free of emotional defect, but they are supposed to be in stages of advanced development in relation to their peers, right? College is not supposed to be a place for inadequate people. College is supposed to be a place for at least above average to extraordinary people. That's supposed to be the selection process for college. And given that context of college is supposed to be a place of development for advanced people from their generation, the idea intellectually of a university or college is that It's a place where you actually have to get out of your comfort zone. That you actually have to circulate, and you have to learn to socialize, and you have to learn to assimilate perspectives that you're extremely uncomfortable with. That you're supposed to learn, that you're supposed to absorb, that you're supposed to learn how to resolve your own bad feelings. Like, you're supposed to sit with your insecurities, and you're supposed to get to know why you have them and resolve them yourself, because that's the key to growth. And so in universities and colleges, the design is circumvented by safe spaces, because then it means that you can conflate something you're uncomfortable with it being unsafe, and that those aren't the same things. Being uncomfortable with something and something being unsafe are two. They're not the same thing. But on the colleges, they have been teaching the students to not make that distinction, to not make that discernment, because discernment, which is probably the most valuable tool you learn as you get into advanced development of self, is extremely uncomfortable, because you have to sort through your own insecurities. You have to make your own unconscious conscious, and that is always uncomfortable. There's no way around that. In fact, it's sort of one of the keys to evolution is making yourself comfortable. Like, you have to learn to identify that a feeling and that emotion that you get when something uncomfortable comes in for you to absorb, that's based in yourself, and it's just being catalyzed by an external situation or idea. And then once you get comfortable enough and you go, oh, that's my emotion when I feel something that I'm uncomfortable with coming in, but it's not a threat, then you learn how to face your fears, your insecurities, and then you learn how to grow and evolve. And by putting safe spaces in places that are meant for advanced development of human beings, you're diffusing the most important part of the experience, which is learning to alchemize your own fears and insecurities, and learning to deal with other people and perspectives that challenge your own. Like, colleges and universities are supposed to be a challenging place. So safe spaces really have no space there. Like, if you're at a point in an institution of advanced development and you feel like that, you need to go see a psychiatrist, or you need to get a therapist. That's what that's for. That means that you have defects. That means that you have things that you can't manage your life at that level, and you're supposed to be in an advanced development arena there, right? As opposed to in regular society, in a city with a general population, there is no such lens put over people in a general population. You're not saying, oh, you're supposed to be advanced development. Like, no. When you're running a society, it's lowest common denominator in terms of, okay, what's the median person? What's the individual doing here? In a generally common sense ran municipality that's going to have all these different things going on, because that's life, you're always going to have a certain percentage of people, because they're of below average IQ, they're of below average development, they don't have the ability to discern things, they are getting overwhelmed by everything. Like, they're doing their best to make it through a humane municipality or city. Now, for those people, and in that situation, you 100% need safe spaces in cities, so that those people have a place where they can maintain their sanity and deal with crisis and deal with emergencies, because they're not there in a learning crucible. They're there experiencing life. And in life, everybody needs a chance to bail out and to find an oasis of peace to compose themselves. As opposed to in learning crucibles, where the express design of that system is to place one under pressure, so that they can find out what their impurities are, what their insecurities are, what they don't like, what their true biases are, bring out all of the impurities of that person from the individual. And that is always an uncomfortable process. And so if you give somebody the opportunity to just bail out on their own, the emotions of themselves that they don't like, or perspectives that they don't like, well, they always will. I mean, I would do it, you would do it, anyone would do it. That's human nature. So that needs to be, philosophically, that should be removed from the design, because it defuses the design of the learning process. But in the GP, in the general population, it's just compassionate to give people spaces where they can check out and compose themselves, essentially. Well, we've been doing it in bathrooms and coffee houses and lounges for thousands of years. So it's giving people like a real clean space to have their safe space. So, do we need safe spaces? Yeah. But, you know, pick and choose where you put them. You don't want to put them in a place that, circumvents the design of the space writ large. So, yeah, we need them. Well, thanks for spending some time here at Philosopher Corner. I hope you found it helpful, and have fun.